You're listening to The Weekend Beat on Coast FM 963. I'm Sarah B, back with Lockie Fanning and psychologist, author and philosopher Carlos Camacho. This week we're talking about fan clubs. Lachlan, you're a fan of a couple of sports clubs. What kind of things do you get up to as a fan?
Well, I get really emotionally invested, like, say, when Craig Lowndes won the Supercars, the V8 Supercars Bathurst race, I think it was 2015. I was absolutely so overjoyed that I leapt to the sky and I cried down on my knees. I was just so happy. And then you get the opposite end of the scale and side of things where Jamie Whincup, even a few years prior to that, he ran out of fuel, which we've spoken about a little bit on this show, and my heart felt like it had been ripped out of its chest. He was leading the race, and the opposite end, quite sad, yes. And it was just one that got away.
I've got a member in my family, I won't mention any names, but he is a full supporter of the All Blacks, and if defeat is on the cards, it can really send him into a black mood, an all-black mood for a whole week. Carlos, why does being a fan elicit such strong emotions?
It's because we are social beings. We have realised throughout thousands of years that we are far better off and have a higher chance of survival if we stick to groups. So there's a lot of tribalism with humans. We've worked out that we're far better off together. Now, with tribalism, of course, that can create issues and even wars in our society, of course, because we know that if it gets too passionate, then it could go to an extreme. Now, the beauty of a sport that it's controlled, so we still have that outlet, but in a controlled manner. That's why sport works.
That seems to make sense to me because we don all the trappings of a tribal group. We're dressed up all in green to go for the Raiders, and when we see other Raiders, supporters, there might be some sort of wave or salute there.
Oh, it's a feeling of euphoria, a sense of belonging.
Yes, sense of belonging, that's exactly right. We find ourselves identified with each other, and it could just be a team. And then maybe the next day we might be on opposite teams if we're voting for a different political party. But yet, at that moment, we're a tribe and we stick together. And we've even stood up for strangers that have the same colour shirt as us. And it's amazing how it shows that we're still attached to our primitive nature.
We're saying it's a primitive habit, but now we've moved into this sort of hyper-digitalized society where fans can really connect with the players, they can connect with the teams in a way that has never been possible before. On social media, you can follow your favourite player, you can hear what they have to say, you can watch movies about their lives, their personal lives, things they upload to Instagram. So this primitive tradition has really taken a turn now that hasn't been witnessed ever before. How is that affecting fans?
Yes, it hasn't been witnessed at this level, but it's always been around. Celebrity has always been around. I mean, look at the gladiators, and you get one that's a hero, and people just support him, and they don't want the emperor to kill him because they want to see him next week. And that's happened 2,500 years ago with the Romans. But beyond that even, we have this sense of appreciating athleticism, because even earlier on with the human species, when our ancestors had to fight in the savannah, Africa, and move forward, there were some that could do that better. And they were protected because the whole tribe depended on these people, either hunting an animal or fighting against other creatures in order to survive. And so for that celebrity status, we identify as those people fighting for us. And so, yes, with digital media, it's become a lot greater. And those people that say they don't like sport, I know there are some, I've met a few, they would still support other things. They would still have a celebrity that they would follow on Instagram, or they would love to meet, and they may have nothing to do with sport. It's the same feeling. We look up to these people because they represent us, and in a way, unconsciously, we need them.
So we do need them for that sense of belonging that Lockie was talking about. But what are the negative effects of this sort of tribalism?
Like I said, it can lead to wars. And I've lived in South America, where football, soccer that we call it here, is like war when two teams play, especially two big teams. And so there's a lot of logistics going on. There's horses and military police, and one side of the stadium where the fans are allowed out first, and 2 hours later. So they go through a lot of logistics in order to keep people safe. But people feel identified with this team, and they get too passionate because it's an extension of themselves. When they wait for Sunday and in a way, they have their humdrum life and they go to the stadium, and if their team loses, it's almost part of them losing. It's almost like we've lost ourselves and our emotions can run riot. Now, professional athletes today, they keep that in check because they're paid a lot of money not to get emotional. And that's why you find that in most sports, professional athletes will shake hands at the end and know, yep, ice bath and recovery and the next one. And that's why all the emotion now is with the people.
So is that why overseas, that where you see the soccer or the football fans, you mentioned they let off flares. It's culturally accepted over there, that excitement, that euphoria, they let them off. But here in Australia, I don't mean to be disparaging or anything, but the Western Sydney Wanderers, they've got a bit of a reputation for letting off flares, and they've been in trouble with the police over here, and it's not really culturally accepted in our soccer society. But that sort of a thing happens overseas, but it's not really tolerated here. But is that what you're sort of getting at there with the release of the emotions, waiting for the week to pass?
That's right. And with football in South America, I know in Europe as well, the hardcore football fans, they're actually part of the show too. I know in Argentina, they actually have their own spots. They don't pay the tickets to get in. So they're basically part of the club and they provide the spectacle of the show. They don't even watch the game, these guys. They hang off these flags looking at you, and if you don't sing, they kick in the head. So it gets a bit too much.
It does get a bit too much. And that brings to mind, there was an example of a 1994 FIFA World Cup player, Andre Escobar. He was a Colombian soccer player and he was murdered. He was apparently murdered in retaliation for scoring an own goal and contributing to the team's elimination from the field. He was shot 6 times with a .38 caliber pistol, and every time he was shot, the killer screamed goal. Now, this is an extreme incident, but there are incidents, like a lot of incidents, where things just seem to go out of control. Is it a fine line between the passion and excitement of the game and fans just en masse taking it too far?
Yeah, yes, it is. And as we were talking about, in Australia, we have certain codes. And so the guidelines are pretty much there to be stuck to. In other countries with sport, guidelines are there kind of like to just in order for people to have some type of idea, but they cross the lines. And yes, there's times like that. That's a tragic event and that's uncalled for in any shape or form. But the problem is that these things happen every now and then and we highlight them. It's like a plane crash. If traveling on planes was dangerous, then no one would take a plane. I mean, and there wouldn't be any planes because it would be a bad business. But we hear the odd one. With this type of situation, yes, it stands out. You've got to remember, someone's playing a game of sport somewhere around the world right now. And most of the time, it's okay. We buy a ticket, we go into the stadium, and we just don't know what's going to happen. We want our team to win, but it starts from 0-0, 0-0, and then what's going to happen? It's not like going to watch a play, for example. So you go and watch a play and you watch Titanic the movie and you know what's going to happen. The ship's going to sink.
Well, I've never seen that movie. I'm only one of the few people that's never actually seen that movie, but I do know what happens.
I have not seen it, but I know the ship must sink. But what happens is, actually Woody Allen said, that's why basketball will always be better than opera, because you don't know what's going to happen. And in a way, he's right. I know what he's trying to say, that we as humans, we love that unpredictability. You know why? Because that is life. That is life right there. When we wake up in the morning and we get in our car, or we catch the bus to go to work, we just don't know what's going to happen. We just don't know how life is going to treat us. And as spectators, we're watching this unfold, a mini lifetime in front of us, and we absolutely love it. We cry, we shout, we scream, we cheer, we hug each other, and it's just so condensed in 80, 90 minutes.
Yes.
And it just does us good. It just does us good to feel in that environment, to be in that environment with other people and cheering for the same people, because it's just a mini lifetime. Then it depends on us how we're going to behave afterwards.
Yes.
And that's where being civil comes in.
Exactly.
Post-game lessons for the pub.
Why not?
Why
On
not?
that note, thank you to philosopher, psychologist and author Carlos Camacho for joining us again on The Weekend Beat. It's been a fascinating discussion.
Well, I know I'm certainly a bit thirsty now. I'm thirsty with all that knowledge.
Let's go.